I just walk in the argument too one-way, why you mad? Girl, why you sick? I do not want that. Came home to you only, you stuck like glue. If I caught that Hellcat, girl, you get one too. For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you? I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.
What's going on? Sevelocity back at it. Another week, more stuff to talk about. Sports, football, basketball, the whole shebang. Hope everyone's doing well. Sean, you want to say anything to the people before we discuss some stuff?
What's up, everyone? Hope everyone had a happy holidays. I had a a happy one. I'll start with the highlights. Highlights: got home to see family, eat a bunch of food. Typical Thanksgiving. Got to hang out with my boy Ev. It's been a while. Now, the sad part is it was a terrible week for me in terms of fantasy, and I want to thank John Morant and Anthony Davis, especially. Oh, and of course, Derrick Rose. I mean, well, I know what the New York Knicks do to me, so I'm going to call that one karma, even though I still love you, D Rose. But thank you, John Morant, for getting injured. Thank you, Anthony Davis, for choosing to, well, I'm assuming you chose, but I'm calling it load management and sitting out a game where I could have used your points, and I ended up getting killed by my opponent for fantasy that week, my boy Anthony. And this is the first time he doubled my score. I've done that to people in past weeks, but it was done to me. But I want to thank those individuals I pointed out in particular for a terrible Thanksgiving week of fantasy.
Okay.
Evan, your floor is yours.
Real quick, I guess I'll also give a shout out to my fantasy team as we get our third win in a row this week. We're chugging along. Trey Young, DeMar DeRozan, Jason Tatum, Chris Middleton, John Collins and company, all getting it done. Will Barton been a pleasant surprise. We're getting Klay Thompson soon in 3 weeks. Can't wait. Um, we're on a roll right now. We're looking good. So for perspective, in the 12-team league, currently I am third in scoring. I have 6,988 points. Um, yeah, third in scoring behind Andrew, and then Anthony is in first, of course. Anthony, I know you steamrolled my friend right here, but I'm coming for you next week. This week's going to be a breeze. So I am playing the Brooklyn New York Shells, which is
Oh, that's my boy Shells at home.
yeah. So I'm coming for you this week. Your team's not playing well right now. So my team's on a roll. We're looking for the W this week, and then we're looking to go and knock off Anthony from his undefeated high horse. So other than that, team's looking great, and we'll start with some football here. So just a quick perspective thing. Sean knows this. People on the podcast might not know this. Um, this weekend, last weekend, I have been able to help participate in the New York State Football Championships. I got to do some game stats for that. So shout out to the whole process of that, to people I got to work with, and all the kids who got to play football. I know for the winners, they're going to have a great opportunity to go and play in Syracuse this week in the Syracuse Dome. Shout out to them. And then for the people who lost, understand that you had a phenomenal season. You went really far. And, you know, even if this might be the end of your athletic career, if you're a senior and you don't plan on playing in college, just know that those moments of competition are going to be some of the best moments of your life. And don't, you know, don't weep about them, but cherish them. So, moving forward, we'll start with some of the football games. It's a legendary week because the New York Jets got the win. So the 2-8 Jets beat the 2-8 Texans. Top tier teams playing again, looking good. Zach Wilson making his rookie return after being out for the last 4 weeks. Had one really bad decision where he threw an interception. He throws for 150 yards. One rushing touchdown as well. Team looked pretty good. Tyrod Taylor threw 2 touchdowns for the Texans. Jets win 21-14. They go on to face the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Jets versus Eagles, so that should be interesting. Speaking of Eagles, they just lost to the Giants. I want to start with Jalen Hurts. Was absolutely garbage against the Giants this week. But while he was garbage, the team were still close the entire time. And he had a chance to win the game late. Jalen Hurts drives down the field, and Jalen Reagor had 2 crucial drops, including one in the end zone that went right through his fingertips to lose the game. So I want to say that while Jalen Hurts might have not played well, his receivers truly let him down, and we'll see where they go from there. In terms of the Giants, I mean, they just fired their offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett. Freddie Kitchens ended up calling the plays. The Giants end up playing. Let me double check who they play this week. Giants play the Dolphins this week. They should win that game, but the Dolphins have been on a roll as well. We'll see where they go from there. Eagles head coach was kind of tearing up a bit, saying that Jalen Hurts he gave Jalen Hurts decision making a failing grade, and he needs to consider what to do next. We'll see if he might get benched soon. But right now, it's a little bit troubling. They're 5-6, close to the playoffs, but not there. Other games: Titans versus Patriots. I think a lot of people thought the Titans were at the top of the league 2 weeks ago, which I've said multiple times before they lost to the Texans. They lost to the Jets, and that team is very vulnerable, especially without Derrick Henry. Patriots get the win 36-13. I believe this is the Patriots' 7th win in a row. They move on to 8-4, sixth or 7th win in a row. They moved to 8-4. Mac Jones had the rookie Mac Jones had 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, looked great. Tannehill did not look good. However, it looks like they found their backup running back who will fill in the place of Derrick Henry. Dontrell Hilliard had 130 rushing yards, so something to note, especially for you fantasy football participants. On the New England side, Rhamondre Stevenson had most of the carries as well over Damian Harris. Now moving on to Thanksgiving games, I forgot to mention these. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that the NFL kind of slacked when it came to Thanksgiving games. There was 3 games, and I don't think any of them were that good. You had the bottom tier Bears versus the bottom tier Lions, 2 of the worst teams in the league. The Lions are 0-8-1 going into the game. The Bears, I believe, are 4-7. Lions end up losing again. They are still winless. Bears get the win by 2. Under Andy Dalton, because Fields was hurt, I believe. Moving on to the Cowboys versus Raiders. Disappointing performance from the Cowboys. Dak Prescott played pretty good. I think that wasn't the problem. Now we're getting to a point again where the Cowboys defense, which is supposed to be good, has now become a liability as they gave up 36 points to the Raiders. Dak threw for 2 touchdowns and over 350 passing yards. They lose in overtime 36-33. And the Raiders go to 6-5, while Dallas is 7-4. And in second place in the division, I believe, is now the Eagles, who are 5-6. So 2 games behind the Cowboys. I want to just try to highlight some of the big games. Bucks versus Colts. Tom Brady got the win over the Colts in a close one. Bengals beat the Steelers 41-10. Joe Burrow looked pretty good. Steelers looked very disappointing. Chargers versus Broncos. Chargers lose 13-28. Chargers are a weird team. They go and beat the Steelers. They beat a couple of notable teams, and then they just don't show up this week. Broncos, too, one of those teams that either decide to be good or bad. They get the win. Good win for them. Ravens beat the Browns. That was a pretty close game, 16-10. Very much a ground and defensive game, so mostly rushing and small passes. Monday Night Football, Washington football team beat Seattle Seahawks and Russell Wilson. This is, I believe, the 4th or 5th loss in a row for Seattle. So I think that Russell Wilson's time is slowly coming to an end in Seattle. He's still a top-tier quarterback, but I don't think he's going to want to be there after this year. Vikings versus 49ers. 49ers have been on a roll lately. They've been getting a lot of big wins. They get the win. They move to 6-5. Minnesota falls to 5-6. Jimmy Garoppolo threw for 240 yards and a touchdown. Elijah Mitchell ended up getting 130 rushing yards and a touchdown as well, rushing. Did a great game on the ground. Probably the biggest game of the week that everyone kept their eyes on, Rams versus Packers. Perhaps the two of the best teams in the league, top 5 teams. It was a good game. Packers end up winning 36-28. Stafford threw 3 touchdowns and 300 passing yards for the Rams, as well as an interception, while Mr. Rogers himself threw 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams had 100 receiving yards, as well as Randall Cobb having 100 receiving yards as well. Packers moved to 9-3, and the Rams moved to 7-4. Great win for the Packers. We'll see how they move forward. Packers end up facing the Bears next week on Sunday Night Football, so that should be... Oh, I'm sorry, they have a bye week this week, so the Packers won't be playing. Aaron Rodgers will be taking the week off. Then they come back, face the Bears. They'll probably blow them out by 40. And then a game that you're probably going to be really interested in, December 17th. It's 3 weeks away, I'm sorry. December 19th, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers come into Baltimore and face Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. That should be a great game. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Rodgers and Lamar Jackson have faced each other yet in Lamar Jackson's career. So that should be a good game. We'll see where that goes. Exciting stuff. By the way, Rodgers also had a rushing touchdown. He has a broken toe, I believe. So he's been playing through that. So it's a little bit interesting thing to keep an eye out on. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the Panthers versus the Dolphins. Dolphins have won 2 or 3 in a row. Tua Tagovailoa threw for 230 yards and a touchdown. Myles Gaskin had 50 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Waddle had 140 receiving yards and a touchdown for the rookie. The one thing I wanted to point out, though, was Cam Newton, who had a good first 2 games, looked pretty good. He threw 21 passes this week, and he completed 5 of them. So he had less than a 25% completion percentage. You want to be over 50%. So that was really bad. And threw 2 interceptions. And like I said, you usually want to have 250 to 300 passing yards. He had 92 passing yards. So not the most ideal game. We'll see if he can recover. They fall to 6-7. Not sure about the status of Sam Darnold when he's returning. I know he has a shoulder issue. And who knows if he would even start when he returns. Next week they face the Falcons, though. That should be, or they're on a bye week too. In 2 weeks they face the Falcons. That should be an easy game. We'll see where that goes. Other than that, not too much to talk about. I will say that something to note with the Jets, if you're a Jets fan, is their kicker has missed a lot of field goals. There was a point in the game where the coach of the Jets had the opportunity to take a 45-yard field goal. He turned it down because he didn't trust his kicker, called a timeout, and ended up going for it. Gets it inside the 30, and then lets him kick a field goal. He is 100% from field goals less than 40 yards, but he is less than 40% from field goals 40 yards or further, which is really bad. So expect him to potentially get cut or a tryout for the Jets for a new kicker. So some competition to see if they can find someone better. Other than that, LSU just hired Brian Kelly as their new head coach because they just fired Ed Orgeron, who won a college championship with them but kind of fell off this year. They're not ranked. So they bring in Brian Kelly from Notre Dame. This is notable because LSU isn't ranked this year. They're a powerhouse school. They usually get a lot of top prospects, but they're not ranked this year, so they're not expected to go anywhere. And meanwhile, Notre Dame was ranked number 6 in the country in football, and their head coach, while they're ranked number 6 in the country, left in the middle of the season to become the coach of LSU. So an interesting change. We'll see how Notre Dame performs without their head coach now that they're one of the top teams in the nation. LSU looking to rebuild with a new head coach. We'll see if that works. I'm not a huge fan of Brian Kelly. I don't like Notre Dame, but as an LSU fan, I'm going to have to support him. So that's some college football for you. Other than that, I think that's everything I got to cover in the football realm, and I think it's time to talk some basketball.
Absolutely.
Do you want to start with a specific topic?
Nah, I'll let you kick it off this time. I already led into it with my frustration with fantasy.
Okay, so I'll start with. All right, I'll start with tonight's games because we'll probably talk about them later too. But notable games tonight. Anyone who is a big fan of basketball should definitely be watching basketball tonight. We have the Knicks versus the Nets. The rivalries between boroughs. So
Well, actually, not even just that. It's like the borough of Brooklyn and the rest of New York City.
yeah, so that should be a great game.
Yeah.
The Nets are starting to look better, but they also just came off a loss from the Suns, who are 16-0 in their last 16 games. So I think anyone who loses to the Suns can kind of get off the hook with that. Not a big deal.
They did point out like a trend though that like I saw heard on First Take that the reason that Brooklyn like caught up so much in their wins and I think they're in the lead in the East now is their whole wins against like teams that they should be killing. Like when they're up against teams that are like real legit like contenders or competition, they've been losing to them.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? Towards the end?
Yeah, they've been losing to teams that like should be like competition or
Yeah, I
potential
agree.
title contenders. Yeah.
Um, so who do you think's gonna win tonight between those two?
My God, it makes me so sick to my stomach. I think the Knicks are going to win tonight.
I am.
Whoa, wait, hold up. Wait a sec. They're playing in Brooklyn. Mm. The thing is, I know that energy in Madison Square Garden really does boost those players, but yeah, I, you know, I had the Nets winning. I had the Nets winning. If they were in the Garden, I would have picked the Knicks.
Um, I want to pick the Knicks, but I think I might pick the Nets too. The injuries are a little bit bad for the Knicks. So right now, Derrick Rose is out. It says he's considered questionable for tonight's game, so we'll see if he returns or not.
They're
Um,
not playing him.
Nerlens Noel is day to day as well. He's considered questionable for the game. The only reason that's significant is Mitchell Robinson's also day to day, so I don't know if they're going to have a center. As well as Taj Gibson is out, and he's questionable for Tuesday's game. So there's three different centers who are questionable for the Knicks. Um, Derrick Rose is out, and then R.J. Barrett's also day to day, and they don't know if he's going to be playing tonight. So that's literally five of the most notable players on the team, maybe outside of Nerlens Noel. But between Rose, Gibson, Barrett, and Mitchell Robinson, those are pretty significant injuries to their lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw, and now Kemba Walker's getting benched because he's not playing well. So now you have a starting lineup right now of, well, I know Alec Burks is out there. Evan Fournier. I don't know who was playing point guard because Alec Burks isn't a point guard and neither is Evan Fournier, and they're both guards. Let me just triple check real quick before we steer away from this topic.
Are you sure they're not going to start Kemba since Rose is out?
Okay, so the last game that they played, Kemba didn't even play at all. Julius Randle, the starting lineup was Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. So Mitchell Robinson should play tonight. We'll see how that goes. Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, and R.J. Barrett was their starting lineup. So I'm assuming R.J. Barrett was probably bringing up the ball for a majority of when they were starting. And then their backup, and then their bench was Sims, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, and Quentin Grimes. None of which are point guards either, are the ones who got minutes. So, well, if Barrett's out, Kemba Walker's going to have to play. We'll see what they do. That should be an interesting game. But with everything standing as it is, I don't think the Knicks can win, especially with James Harden and Kevin Durant both playing. Speaking of the Nets, though, let me see if I can pull it up. Joe Harris is going to be out for the next 4 to 8 weeks because he's getting ankle surgery. So no Joe Harris for the Nets. Another role player loss for them. They'll probably look more towards LaMarcus Aldridge and I forgot his name. I believe his name's Brett Brown.
Brett Brown?
It's not Brett Brown. That's the coach. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The horrible coach.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown, yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably look towards those two to kind of step up a bit.
Interesting thing about Harden, like I saw like a quote from him like this week in the press conference. They asked him about his struggles with Brooklyn like right now, and he says he's struggling because he doesn't know like when he should score versus when he should focus on facilitating.
Yeah, I think something that could really help that team right now would be someone like Kyrie Irving, if they can maybe get him in a trade. Oh no, never mind. He's already on the team. He's just not there.
Actually, that right there almost reminds me of something that funny people forget about because like that's because of how good they were. But back when KD first joined the Warriors, you remember the first half of that season, like how compromised Steph Curry looked. It was because like he was deferring to KD so much, trying to
Yeah,
make him like fit in on the team and didn't want to overstep too much and diminish his game. But KD told Steph, "Look, this is your team. This is you guys' squad. Let just keep doing your thing. Let me figure myself out." So I feel like maybe because KD, like what have we seen, he's just an adaptable player and can just be Kevin Durant
yeah.
anywhere. I feel like that's some he needs to kind of do the same
So
thing with Harden.
So you're saying basically that instead of trying to necessarily run through everything through KD, let everything run through James Harden and let KD adjust to that, and he'll probably still end up being the top player, but James Harden will be more
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah, I think so because I
Yeah,
think
I agree.
KD's the most adaptable.
Yeah, I think KD is one of probably 4 or 5 players in the NBA who could probably adapt on any team he's on.
Yep.
So that would be, I would say, a good move. Other games tonight. Let's look at the other games tonight. You already know the two notable ones. I don't know if there's any others. Okay, so there's a few. You have the Grizzlies versus Raptors. No one really cares about, especially if John
No.
Morant's not playing.
Yep.
Pistons versus Trailblazers. All we'll say is if the Trailblazers lose, they're even more in trouble considering their record's already negative.
Trade Dame Lillard to the Sixers.
Keep an eye on the 10 o'clock game though, because that's the Lakers versus the Kings, and
My
the Lakers.
God, they better not lose this.
The Lakers haven't looked great, and also the Kings just fired Luke Walton, so the Kings are going to have a new coach, so that might be a sense of, well, similar to the NFL and any other sport. Anytime there's a new coach, there tends to be a new spark, whether it be on offense or defensive. Teams may be looking a little bit better, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, back to the Lakers real quick. I'm glad Stephen A said something really interesting on First Take this week, in which I totally agree with. Like both of us have agreed that Westbrook, his name has been getting slandered and he been being used as a scapegoat for the Lakers, like unjustly. But Stephen A is critical of Westbrook. Like there are times when like his turnovers and stuff like that hurt you towards the end of games. But at the same time, there have been many games where down the stretch where he's the one like hitting like some key shots for them. But and he also pointed out this too with Frank Vogel, and this is a criticism of his coaching now. There are games where Westbrook starts off the game like hot, getting in a good rhythm, and then Vogel takes him off the court
Mm-hmm.
and he keeps him out for too long.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah, go ahead.
I think that I think Westbrook's career is over. That man's garbage. No, I'm kidding. That's basically what you would assume though, with the way the media is treating him. So
Yeah.
it's he's. I've told you this a couple times. I could see situations where he ends up being the full-time number 2 option, and that might not entirely be true. I'm just saying that he seems to be the most willing to step up for the team, unlike
Yeah.
someone
And
like AD or LeBron will always step up, but I think that he likes to defer the scoring to other people. So
yeah, and that's the problem. AD, like Stephen A, Kendrick Perkins, bunch of them, Jalen Rose, they've said it. Anthony Davis, in terms of his abilities and skills, is top 5 caliber. But in terms of like his use of it and execution right now, it's top 10.
they just need a true center. They should bring in someone like Isaiah Stewart.
I don't think. Oh my God. But I still at this point I don't think it's a matter of the position like he's playing now.
No.
I don't know what's wrong with the AD because like the first year with the Lakers, you remember how aggressive he was playing? Like every night, I don't know what is up with him.
He got
Unless he,
comfortable.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Unless he's gotten nonchalant. Oh, all right, I got my ring, so maybe the
I got
second
my
urgency
ring. I
isn't
got 2
there
stars
anymore.
around me. I got 2 stars around me and like 8 veterans. I don't need to do that much.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating because, as you know, I love Anthony Davis. I still love him as a player, but I'm really disappointed because like everyone who knows basketball knows that with the skills that AD has in his arsenal, he should be doing better than this.
So is Giannis slightly climbing up above AD for you now?
I think I do recall saying that after when we did the rankings for top three in the league, I said it's fair to put Giannis above AD. I
Okay.
told you I wasn't willing to put him above LeBron or KD,
Okay.
but AD I said is fair.
I think that day that is getting closer and closer for the LeBron part of that.
I mean, yeah, I mean it's going to happen.
Well, Joel, just because of how much LeBron's not playing lately, I think is concerning. But he did look really clutch the last time he played, so to
Yeah,
his
and
credit.
Giannis hasn't been having his explosive MVP year so far either,
Yeah,
like he used to.
I think something that Giannis is probably realizing too, and I think this is something that kind of gets realized anytime someone wins a championship, is um, Giannis, I feel like, had an urgency throughout his previous regular seasons where he felt the need that he needs to go off every game. He needs to get every win. I feel like once you win a championship, you get this mentality of it's not a race, it's a marathon. So now I feel like he's kind of being a little bit more nonchalant in his earlier games, knowing that he needs to be fully ready for the playoffs and a late regular season streak. But
He showed it last year too. Last year he wasn't this league MVP favorite, but that's the year he won it.
yeah, so we'll see if he just starts to get better and better as the season goes on.
You see, and I'm going to use Giannis as an example because despite Giannis not showing those MVP numbers and stuff, he in terms of like where I feel like he deserves to be, that doesn't drop him off the list for me. So I just want to make it clear to you that just because a guy's stats look a little different doesn't necessarily mean that they fell off a cliff. Or off the face of the earth. Giannis is still the same Giannis last year, but as you said, he's just not stepping on the throttle like
my
24/7 like he used to.
I think your disconnect and mine is that I value injuries very heavily in my ratings. So when someone is can be on the floor and they perform really well, but they're not on the floor almost at all, then that's something that really bothers me. So if LeBron is on the floor 50% of his games, I feel like that's something to be critical of.
Well, can't be because that's never wavered KD's spot for you.
KD plays almost every game when he's healthy.
When he's healthy and when he's not healthy, he misses
Listen,
the whole season.
he tore his Achilles. He was out for a year, but that's different. That's a full injury where he's out forever.
Yes.
But he was out for a year and then he came back and he did great. Whereas LeBron, he comes back and he plays great. But the thing is, he's having these small injuries where he's missing game after game throughout the regular season. It's not Kevin Durant doesn't do that. He doesn't sit out because his leg hurts.
Hold on. So oh my God. So a guy gets dropped off the list for a less severe injury that's impacting his game and his career less so than a severe injury that could be potentially career ending.
I'm saying a 36-year-old is having injuries that aren't that significant, but he's sitting games because they're significant to his body because of how old he is.
But consider this: those same injuries they look abnormal to us because it's LeBron, but we see it happening to the younger stars, and we don't shake them wherever they are on the list.
No,
In fact, he still gets injured less frequently than some of these younger guys.
when
Consider
LeBron was
Go
Luka
ahead.
Doncic's age or any of those guys' ages like Jason Tatum, it was
He-
he never got injured. I will give
I
you
know,
that.
I know. That's
But
what I'm saying. We got spoiled by that.
we did get spoiled. But now we're at a point where everything is games missed. You know, he can have a sore ankle and he's gone for 3 weeks. What are we supposed to do?
So hold on. John Moran misses a month, a whole month now. We're not going to consider him top five-ish point guard anymore.
No, that's different because he's young. You know he's going to recover.
Oh my God.
LeBron's old, so it's just this decline, injury after injury.
No. Stop that. You see, but we see when LeBron's healthy, he's back to being like one of the top dogs in the league. Let me tell you this. You see, it's not that I completely dismiss his age. Like I'm telling you for right now, if LeBron were to rupture his Achilles or stuff like that, then I would definitely drop him down on the list because I see that as definitely
potentially career altering.
Yeah, but like an ankle sprain, like how many you can't call yourself a basketball player if you never sprained your ankle.
I'm not saying his gameplay is directly deteriorating after each injury. It's the fact that he's not on the floor. It's how often he's missing these games. That's a problem.
But what I don't understand is it's only a problem to you just looking at his age. But when guys that are younger, who should be on the floor more than him, they're getting injured just as frequently, if not more frequently, missing as many games, if not more, but they don't get shaken off.
My problem is
actually has a reputation for us to have confidence in that he will come back and be great.
My problem is that there's this trend where he does this right before the playoffs too, and then he's not in the playoffs, and then it's a free excuse for him to just stay at the number one ranking.
You know what oh my God, you know what I want to call you right now. I'm not going to say. You know what I want to say.
You call me that, we're not recording anymore.
That is a load of bullshit. You see, I don't know how you can do this. How can you say stuff like that and then want to tell me I can't say it? When you know it's true too.
You call me that, I'm stopping the recording.
Here's the thing. I know you're being quasi-serious because I know you're getting a kick out of this. But come on, man. That's not even fair. How can you expect me not to?
What are you supposed to do if he's just not on the floor in the playoffs? We're just supposed to call him the best in the world? Like, constantly?
You see? Did I even go that far? Hold on. So when KD wasn't playing at all, and when Matt Kellerman would go on saying Kawhi Leonard's the best player in the world, and then Giannis, even though he wasn't playing at all, Kevin Durant, Stephen A. Smith still had him above those two.
Here's the thing, and this is going to be controversial because I know a lot of people are going to be mad at this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Kevin Durant was better than LeBron James before he tore his Achilles.
I know you did. I don't care.
So my thing was that I was certain that regardless of how severe his injury was, since he was still near a prime age, I believe he was 30 when he tore his Achilles, I was pretty certain that his body was going to recover perfectly fine and he was still going to be great at basketball. My concern is anytime LeBron gets injured, I'm worried that it's going to be something that alters his career permanently. Regardless of how severe it is, he's 36 years old and his ankle doesn't recover swiftly like it used to when he was 25 years old. So every injury is more concerning to me than any injury on anyone who's under 35 years old.
It's funny you say that, but do you remember an individual, we said his name earlier in the show, by the name of Derrick Rose?
Yes.
I think he was even younger than Kevin Durant, and how well did he recover from his injuries?
He didn't.
Exactly.
There are outliers who do not recover from their injuries. I will say John Wall is one of those people too, because no one talks about it. But John Wall was way better 5 or 6 years ago before he had any injury happen to him than he is now.
Yeah, and I'm with you on this on the KD thing. I was just using him as an example because of how bad his injuries were.
Right.
But I also believe that he would recover. Like I wasn't like Max who thought, I don't know if Kevin Durant will be a top 5 player anymore. I thought he would just need some time to get himself back into game shape, but he exceeded my expectations there. But yeah. Well, I say with LeBron again, if these injuries that he's getting, they're not ones that would like necessarily like straight up compromise like his level of play to that extent. Like, I mean, look at Klay Thompson, another example. Stephen A. Smith is so confident that Klay's gonna come back to be what he was.
Well, yeah, but he's also younger. My concern is that LeBron is going to keep having these injuries, and it's going to lead to one that's more significant. Even if it's not something like a torn ACL or a torn meniscus or something even like as something like a dislocated shoulder, where I'm worried that he's going to have a slow recovery. And I feel like he's a great player. He's still top five, no matter what. But there's a point where how much can your game IQ carry you when your athleticism's deteriorating? Like that's
Well,
kind of where we're at.
his jump shot's gotten better.
It has. It has.
The athleticism going down, but the scat is coming up.
He
We
could
saw
thank
that
Carmelo
happen.
for that.
You better you better get basketball card pulled for that. We look back at MJ, Michael Jordan, when he later as he got older in his career, when his athleticism started to decline, that's when he relied on his mid-range shot more. Same thing with Kobe. We're seeing the same thing as LeBron, like how he's increasing, like improving other areas in his game, no acknowledging he himself knows his athleticism is deteriorating. But LeBron's game, it was never like solely reliant on his
Right.
athleticism. Like he is a skilled player.
This is the beginning of the end for LeBron.
All right, looks like we have another eulogy.
Listen, I'm just saying he's got a chance to win the finals. I'm not like everyone else who says
Yeah.
he might not win the finals ever again.
Hold on, wait, just let me cut it right there. Listen, Carl, just so everyone's thinking you don't think I'm taking you out of context. I know you're not saying he's dropping out of top five and
Right.
falling off a cliff. I understand all of that.
I
got you on
appreciate that.
But the thing is, this is my problem with you, and I told you the text is that sometimes I cannot keep up with your arguments because if LeBron, because I bet you, if LeBron goes the rest of the season and he does not get injured at all, there's a chance you might have him back at the number one spot.
I think I'll be honest with you. I think there is zero chance that he can ever touch number one again. Because as long as Kevin Durant's in the league, I think that Kevin Durant, being a couple years younger than him and being slightly more in his prime than him, there is no chance that he could be number one again. He could be number two. But right now, it's tough to spot him because I really do think that age and recovery rate are a factor immensely into my list. So people like the main three people that I put above LeBron, kind of, where I'm a little bit indecisive on it, is Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Giannis. And that's not in any specific order. Obviously, Kevin Durant would be number one, but I don't know where I would put Steph and Giannis because Steph right now is on some insane level that last year everyone was like, "Oh, this is legendary," and then next year, every year he just steps it up even more. So I don't know where I'm supposed to put him because I know he also doesn't have a lot of the capabilities that LeBron has in regards to like game IQ and game awareness. So
And impact.
Right. So
all around.
That's tough for me to evaluate. But like guys like Steph and Giannis right now are essentially in the primes of their career. Steph is kind of a little bit past his prime, I guess.
He ain't past his prime. He's playing better basketball than he ever
He
did.
is. I usually your prime tends to be from like what 24 to like 29, right?
I think the 28 to 32 range.
Yeah. So technically, Kevin Durant and Steph are towards the end of their primes, but they're looking the best that they've ever had. So it's kind of hard, and LeBron's at 36 years old, so it's hard for me to put two or three people who are basically at the center of their primes versus someone who should be way past it.
Hey, yeah, emphasis on should, but hey, that just tells you when he was in his prime how transcendental he was.
And that's a compliment to him. Someone who's 36 years old should not be near that list.
Let's just say that just the fact we're even talking about him just shows how great he is.
Right. Yeah. So nothing I said is to slander him. It's more of there is concern. There is concern that something is going to steeply drop off eventually.
But let me ask you this: of those names, I'm just going to use those three names you mentioned, like Giannis, KD, and Steph, and we're going to take LeBron. Who among them do you think has the biggest impact on their team, like on the floor, between when they play and when they don't play? Where do you think it's most blatantly obvious that the team is significantly weaker without them?
I think LeBron has the biggest impact on his team, but Kevin Durant has the biggest impact on the court, if that makes sense. So LeBron is can do a lot for his team and open up a lot of opportunities and kind of show them the way on a lot of things. But Kevin Durant directly has the biggest impact on the court out of anyone on the court, opponent or teammate. Like his scoring ability is second to none, and his ability to score is going to have the highest impact. But LeBron has the impact of the team around him too. So Kevin Durant's is more just a sole impact, carries himself. LeBron's is a team impact.
But I think that's also variance in just also the style of play. Like Kevin Durant just doesn't like he lacks the skills that LeBron has to really like elevate guys around him to the same degree that
Right.
LeBron does. But at the same time, LeBron he doesn't have the mentality KD does to just go out and just try and just outscore everybody.
Yeah, so I think
I think LeBron still has that ability. We still seeing him do it here and there.
Right. LeBron has the ability to make all of his team better around him, and I think that's really important. And he does have some ability to take over games, but in regards to Kevin Durant, when he feels the need to take over a game or he plays pissed off, he could shoot at 15 feet behind a three-point line with three guys in his face, and I would be confident that he makes it. And I think that's something that I can't say about anyone else, including Steph Curry.
We're in the regular season right now, so I have more confidence in Steph.
Well, like Kevin Durant for ability to shoot in traffic, no matter where he is, I think he's the best at what he does.
Postseason, I give it to KD. Regular season, I give that to Steph.
That Game 6 between the Nets and the Bucks, I know he had that really bad miss to try to win the game late, but he had no business being in that game. And the reason that they were in that game was the way he was playing in the third and fourth quarter. And his foot being on the 3-point line was so devastating for them, but the fact that he even hit that shot was ridiculous.
I think, again, it's a different mentality. LeBron's game is driven by his basketball IQ. KD's game is driven by his talent.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that... Wait, what did you say Kevin Durant is driven by?
His talent.
I think talent beats IQ here. But that's very...
But not when the IQ is lacking in talent. Isn't lacking in talent.
Well, the thing is, you got to be on the floor to have talent.
Oh my god! All right, and when one guy's on the floor, we're seeing them losing games and having your own home crowd cheering on the other team's superstars.
I think there's a legit, debate for LeBron to be potentially number one if he's on the court constantly. But the thing is, he's not. So. He plays like a number one player in the NBA when he's on the floor. The problem is he's not on the floor.
All right, I can concede that. All right, I'll just say it for everyone. When I'm making my list, Stephen A. Smith is like this too. When we're evaluating players or ranking them, we're trying to think of their best version of themselves in the moment and assuming health. That's how we make our list. That's how I like to make my list, because injuries is an anomaly that can happen to anybody.
As someone, especially from my football, like watching a lot of football, as someone who evaluates any talent in any sport, injury drastically affects my ratings because there's always a concern. Especially you see it in football. I mean, it's more contact, so it's different. But you see a lot of these guys who get injured around LeBron's age, and it's so hard to recover from that, regardless of the injury. It could be an ankle sprain, anything. It just takes 2 or 3 times longer to recover than when he was in his prime. So I'm a little bit more concerned with LeBron's abilities every time he takes an injury that he's going to slowly regress in his abilities, while maintaining his game IQ.
All I got is maintaining his skills too. His athleticism down, but his jump shot is wet this year. Oh my god. You should be ashamed of yourself.
All I'm saying is he's lucky Carmelo was there to teach him.
LeBron, let me tell you this, LeBron, because I don't care what this man said. There's still a hater in him somewhere. Because part of him is enjoying this because he's reaching and digging for evidence, some sort of evidence to take you down the notch because he doesn't like you for God knows what reason to this day. LeBron, if you want to get the glory and credit that I believe you still deserve, you need to come on the court with pads on all your legs. I want some nice cushioning and pads all over your legs. That way, this man can appreciate the greatness that you have.
It's just,
Like, do not do LeBron. The key for you to be ranked number one is if you can't get hurt. So
yeah.
I guess LeBron just don't even bother practicing anymore.
You might as well just take constant load management. That's what he needs.
Because if it's him like getting, if he sprains his toe and that's gonna take him down a notch.
Dude,
LeBron, the no practice puts you at risk for injury too.
He's following that Sixers blueprint. Get injured right before the playoffs and then don't play in the playoffs.
All I know is this: I am telling you from now, if KD gets another injury that's gonna make him out for at least half this season, I am gonna go on the air and tell you that he's not top 5 in the league. Following your logic, because KD's not young either. He's 3 years behind LeBron. He is 33 years old.
I didn't say LeBron's not top 5. You'd have to drop KD to number 5.
I'm going drastic.
Going drastic? Okay.
Yeah, because I listen to you go drastic on your soliloquy, and you say I'm not and just because I love Sevelocity and I love our fans, I'm not going to use a certain word in your presence, but so I found an alternative, and I cannot believe you're doing this to your boy Giannis. Like, I recall someone on the opening night of the season, this man said Giannis is the best player in the world, and now you're putting him under KD again.
No, I said Kevin Durant was always the best.
No. Oh my!
You can check it. You can check it.
I can't because this wasn't on Sevelocity. This was on text, but it was on Snapchat. So now that message is gone.
You could check it. No, I said that. No, I said that Kevin Durant was always the best, but Giannis had one of the best playoff series, and he had the best playoffs out of any NBA player.
No, I'm talking about after opening night when Giannis had that big game opening night. Yeah, was it the Bucks versus the Nets? Yeah, It was. No, yeah, because the Lakers played the Warriors on opening night. I know that for a fact. Oh my God, I am scrolling back to this now.
I hope you find it, because I wouldn't say that. I was always fixed on the motion that Kevin Durant is the best in the league.
I'm looking back to the opening night game. That's what I'm looking back for.
I always said Kevin Durant was the best.
Oh my God.
The Bucks should sign Carmelo Anthony though, because Giannis.
Here it is right here. Yeah, it was the Bucks versus the Nets. KD did have 32 points and 11 rebounds, 4 assists. Giannis has 32, 14, and 7. You said if Giannis.
Actually, I know. No, I remember what I said, and I can explain it. I said that if Giannis keeps this up for the entire season, then he has the chance to be the best player in the league, and he has not kept it up.
You said is.
And that was an ultimatum, and he hasn't reached that threshold. He's not getting 32 points and 15 rebounds a game.
So in other words, because Giannis is not there trying to stuff the stat sheet and push for league MVP, that's why he's not number 1.
No, he's not stuffing the stat sheets. He's just nice with it.
So, all right. So you think that right now so do you think Giannis's game has fallen off from his MVP years?
I think that he's not playing at his full potential right now. Right this second.
But do you think it's a matter of him like playing bad, playing inferior to those years, meaning like in terms of like he's trying but can't get to that level anymore? Or do you think it's a matter of him just not, going all out 24/7 like he used to?
I think he knows that it's regular season basketball and it's not postseason basketball.
Therefore, he hasn't lost any of that he has.
But we don't know if he's going to do that consistently.
But you see, but I
That's what we're trying to evaluate.
guess
Can he do that on a consistent basis?
I guess I believe in players more than you because let me ask you this: when was the last time Kevin Durant was a scoring leader? It was back in 2014. But yeah, you still religiously call him the best scorer in basketball right now because we know the skills and
Because of
abilities
what
in
he's
his
capable
arsenal.
of.
Even exactly, it doesn't just wither away. The thing, the man, like in this 2014 MVP year, KD was going all out every game. That's
But
how it goes.
but we always need to see that again to make sure that they can do it. We don't know for certain if they're always going to be able to do that.
My God. So, hold on. So you don't. So you right now you're saying you don't. You're not confident that Giannis can do his MVP numbers again.
No, I'm confident that he's capable of it, but I don't know if he's going to maintain that. There's always a chance of regression. You can always get worse at basketball. Well, not worse at basketball, but less improved than the rest of the people.
Oh my God. But you know why I'm laughing now? Because at the very least you could have said if he gets injured, but the man's not even hurt. So what you're saying is that like his abilities is about to wither away in the moonlight.
No, not like that. But like, I'm trying to think of the best example because people have gotten worse at basketball before, and not necessarily because of injury, but because of just having a bad season. You can easily have a bad season where you don't feel like you were nearly as good as you were the previous year.
That's the difference between good and great players.
So I think that Giannis is capable of reaching those standards again, but I don't know. People have different hot streaks. So some of them, I'm trying to think of the best example. Like Jimmy Butler might be a really good example. The year that he won the finals, that was some of the best Jimmy Butler we've ever seen. Probably the best Jimmy Butler we have ever seen. But then
and it never entered my mind that he's top 5. Never.
I'm not saying top 5, but I'm saying from the perspective of he clearly got worse the year after. He wasn't nearly as good as he was at that time where he was able to take over the game. I'm saying that people can have seasons where they regress.
I think he was the same player. It was the Bucks matchup that was different this time around.
I just think
that's what happened.
I think people can step away, and like James Harden's a good example this year, this year and even last year before when he was on the Rockets. He's clearly regressed since he's been on the Rockets, but he has the abilities to still reach his top level. So it's a matter of being streaky and being on a cold streak or a hot streak.
But let me ask you this: when he was on his hot streak on the Rockets, was there ever a moment in time where you consider him the best player in basketball?
No, I think he reached the top 5 at one point, and that was it. And I think you would agree with me. He was never number 1.
Yeah, I never felt that way.
No, he wasn't top 3 either.
But the man was averaging
30 a game almost.
Over that.
Oh yeah, over 30.
Closer to 35, like Michael Jordan has scoring ability.
You know who's another good example? Bradley Beal averaged over 30 last year too, and I think that
he was over 30. I thought he was just at like.
Or the year before, he was at over. I know he was over 30 for a majority of the season. I don't know if he ended over 30. But the point being is that he has not looked nearly as good since.
The thing is because that was an anomaly. He did it once. He just elevated it. He hadn't showed that consistency. But that's the difference. Bradley Beal, I mean, all right, if we want to call him a great player, yeah, but we're looking at Giannis as a true, like, transcendental Hall of Fame player, and he's shown that level of greatness multiple times. So just because he's not putting up the stats, that's not going to make me, like, lose faith that, like,
you're right.
That he's just falling off. Like, that's why the numbers don't dictate it all.
There's been plenty of players, though, that have kind of just fallen off at points in time. And I'm not saying that he's going to do that, but... I like to
Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is a good example of what you're saying. But the thing, even when there were points where he was starting to put up similar numbers, but when we watch the game, we're seeing like a depreciation in impact.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Just because the numbers aren't what it was doesn't necessarily mean their abilities are gone.
It's not that I'm questioning Giannis. It's just I'm tapering expectations in case he does have an off season, like where he's not as good as he was last year, because I think last year is some of the best that you could ever have, so it's kind of hard to just perfectly match that again.
But I'm saying this, that last year, Giannis' regular season was worse than his 2 MVP years, but what happened was in the playoff, he elevated, and so that was a different sense of urgency there, but still, it was the same abilities. Like, none of his abilities, like, fell off. They did get better. It was the same.
The
So, but his stats were lower. Like he still finished. He's still probably the most dominant slashing
and
finisher in the league.
and the
A
other thing,
defensive force and rebounder.
but the other thing you also have to account for, which I didn't mention this earlier too, is adjustments from other teams. Teams are going to start to find ways to better contain him. So we saw the Suns play against the Bucks last year, and they went with Jay Crowder as their power forward, right? And their center was DeAndre Ayton. So that was a very small lineup. DeAndre Ayton was the only big man in that lineup, and we saw Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, and Giannis all play on the floor almost at the same time, a majority of the times, which was killing the rebounding game. So now we're going to probably see people who face Giannis adapt similar to what the Cavaliers did and have like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley come in, 2 7-footers play simultaneously. So that big man basketball might not work as easily. It might start to fall back to a little bit more 3-point shooting and mid-range shooting, so which I could think could affect his game.
Yeah, but the Suns were in a tough position. They had no choice because remember,
no, they didn't.
Dario Saric was injured, and he's a 7-footer.
You're right. They didn't have a choice, but I'm saying there is concern that there are going to be bigger lineups adjusted around Giannis because that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen lineup, that wasn't happening around the league. There wasn't many teams that went and put 2 7-footers on the floor at the same time. It was always a power forward and a center. And a lot of the times, a lot of these teams liked having a power forward who could shoot mid-range and sometimes 3-point shots. Now you're having guys who are strictly rebounding and big men who are looking to draw contact in the lane, which is what Giannis likes to do. So I think that's going to be countered a little bit more. I'm not saying it might regress his game severely, but there's a chance that could regress his statistics.
Yeah, but that's going to be more so in the playoff when they play more half-court sets. Like right now, in regular season, where like pretty much every other plays a fast break, and they can put as many trees out there as they want. None of them are running with him.
But isn't that kind of what we're worried about? Well, isn't that what kind of we're kind of evaluating? His best is usually in the playoffs, so we're going to see that in the playoffs a lot.
Oh no! Don't you dare do that! Last year was the first time we saw the best from him in the playoffs. Don't try that.
But like, all right, we're saying 100% effort's going to be in the playoffs. So
yeah.
But now he's going to be countered more with those lineups in the playoffs. So we're going to see exactly what adjustments are made to Giannis this year in the playoffs, and I think that's where we can get a true evaluation of whether he got better or worse. Well, I wouldn't say worse, but better or regressed from last year.
Right now, do you believe Giannis is a worse player than he was last year, a better player than he was last year, or the same player?
I believe he's the same player.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just saying that none of that stuff can be guaranteed. Because and that's the same with any NBA player.
But why is this guaranteed that KD's number one?
Because KD's been recognized as one of the best in the league for the longest time, and he's always found a way to beat counters. So this is Giannis' first year at the very top. He's been towards the top, but he wasn't at the very top. He won the NBA Finals this year, which means everyone in the NBA Giannis has everybody in the NBA's attention now, which means that everyone's focused on how to stop him and how to counter him. So I think that kind of affects the NBA a little bit more. When Kevin Durant was in the finals, people wanted to find ways to counter him, but people still haven't found ways to completely counter him, which has made him kind of overrun or overpower most counters.
Actually, I think people are trying to find ways to counter the Golden State Warriors team that he was on.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true too. Because at the same time, you couldn't really make a proper evaluation because he had 3 or 4 All-Stars on his team. Whereas
2 of them are the 2 greatest shooters ever to play basketball.
And the same goes with LeBron. Well, the same doesn't go with LeBron in the matter of having a super team. I think that his team was less than what the Warriors had. But a lot of people are trying to find ways to counter LeBron, especially like the old Celtics when they had, their big 3. They ran into the Heat a lot, so they were trying to find ways to counter LeBron. But the thing is, they never did find a way to counter LeBron. So he kept breaking through any counter ideas that they had. And that's what I want to see. Is Giannis going to break a bunch of the counter ideas? Is he going to just shatter every other potential strategy to potentially stop him? Or is it like LeBron did? Or is he going to have issues with certain play styles or certain defensive schemes?
Yeah. I'm just saying because like, I can't. It's just funny how you have me defending Giannis now. Because even though I never once hated him, because told you I like him genuinely, but this man used to call me a hater for not calling him number one or number two in his MVP years. But
Well,
now,
I'll say he's capable of being number one. It's just a matter of whether he's able to
I
overcome.
just I just recall seeing a Giannis outplay Kevin Durant in overtime.
He did outplay him, but I don't think that's something that's consistent. I think if you played 100 of those overtime games, Kevin Durant would tend to do better than Giannis.
But keep in mind this. Remember what the narrative was coming into that game, because Giannis was really the one on the hot seat. Everyone was ready to crucify Giannis.
You're right. You're 100% right. There was for whatever reason there was no expectations on Kevin Durant to be forced to win that, even because Kyrie was hurt and James Harden was kind of hurt. But however, Giannis was expected to have a flawless performance, 50 points, 20 rebounds. There was a lot of hate going towards him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something I can't control. LeBron gets the same hate, and do I provide some of that in the sense of some of my comments? Yes, not intentionally, but
not intentionally.
I think that to be the best, you have to be on the court.
All I gotta say is, if with the logic you've been giving me, Kevin Durant has not proved that he's number one.
Why?
Well, number one, hasn't been on the court. When on the court, he got outplayed in overtime against the eventual champion.
If we're going off of regular season performance right now, who the best player in the league is, we're probably saying Steph Curry. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think me and you both agree that the playoffs bring out a different monster in every player. So
yeah, I definitely believe that Kevin Durant's a better player than Steph Curry. But I'm just following like the arguments that you've been giving. Kevin Durant's not number one.
He's not performing the best out of anyone in regular season, but he's capable of the best out of everyone.
Let me ask you this: considering like who they have on their rosters, I think we all expected the Brooklyn Nets to be doing, even without Kyrie, we expected them to be doing better right now, way better right now than the Warriors right now without even Klay Thompson.
Yes, I agree, but I will also concede the fact that James Harden has been performing well below expectations, and that was contingent with James Harden contributing to the team. And now you have Joe Harris, who's out 4 to 8 weeks. You have Kyrie Irving doing God knows what. And then you have James Harden performing well below his capabilities. So I feel like, in a sense, Kevin Durant is carrying the team currently.
Oh, I can agree, but I think Steph is doing a better job carrying his
team. I agree. I agree with you.
And Durant still, I still think the Nets have a more talented team.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well,
I'll take Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge over every single one of the Warriors' bigs right now, except Wiseman isn't even playing.
Did you see what they're doing with Wiseman and Klay Thompson?
No, what
they sent them both down to their G League teams. So whichever team has to face the Warriors G League team is going to have to face Klay and James Wiseman in their games.
Oh, that's funny.
So they're going to get absolutely killed. But by the way, so player stats, the top 3 in scoring right now, number one it's a tie for number one. Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, 28.6 points per game. And then third is Giannis with 27. So literally the 3 people we're talking about.
And I bet you by the end of the season, Steph Curry's going to be number one, as long as he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, I feel like the Warriors' offense is set around to Steph Curry cook, basically. I think his whole offense is based around him shooting constant threes. I don't think the Nets are necessarily based off of just giving Kevin Durant the ball. Even though I'm sure that's what Kevin Durant might want, because I think that every possession without him potentially has a chance of not going in with the rest of his team, except for maybe James Harden. But I don't think the Nets based their entire offense on Kevin Durant, which they might have to consider at this point. you should make Kevin Durant take 30 shots a game with the way your team's playing if you want to win games. Wouldn't you agree?
Let's say hypothetically now, within that roster, they end up going into the playoffs and then they get bounced out the first round. Do you believe Kevin Durant deserves to hold the number one spot? And he's healthy himself the whole series.
What is James Harden playing like?
I'll say Harden is playing like let's say Harden is playing like let's say he gives them like 20, averaging like 20 a game for the first round.
I think that gives a legitimate debate to question Kevin Durant, I guess, in a sense. I'm under the firm belief that this is a duos league. Now, I don't think there's much of a super team necessarily anymore. It's mostly duos. But when you go through the NBA list of players and you see James Harden, Kevin Durant, that's by far the best duo in the league, or it should be.
Yeah.
So if you don't perform and you lose a game to, I'm trying to think of a good example. Assuming if it's the first round, they're probably, let's say they're at least a second or third seed, so they're facing the fifth or sixth seed. Let's say they lose to the Hawks in the first round. If Trae Young and John Collins beat James Harden and Kevin Durant, then I have a serious problem with that. I think that's an issue. You can't be losing that game.
Thank you.
100% agree with you. And we can consider Chris Middleton, I guess, and Giannis a duo, because I don't think so. If you told me James Harden didn't play well or he wasn't on the court and they lost, I can't put that on Kevin Durant, because I think that we're in a league right now where no single NBA star can win successfully in the playoffs. So, I don't think Kevin Durant, I don't think Steph Curry, I don't think LeBron, I don't think Giannis, I don't think any of those four guys can go and solely march themselves through the playoffs without another player on their team that can contribute.
Well, that's why I just said first round. I didn't say the whole playoff, just first round.
So, but if Kevin Durant did get bounced out of the first round and James Harden wasn't playing well, then I can't put that on Kevin Durant.
What if they're against the Knicks?
It really depends on how the Knicks are playing, because the Knicks are usually statistically one of the best defensive teams. So are they doubling him everywhere? And is he getting absolutely doubled to triple teamed everywhere by the likes of Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, who are pretty good defenders and big, mind you? Or is it he's getting cooked one-on-one and he's, he finishes the game with 20 points and Julius Randle comes out with 30, then that's a serious issue.
Okay, because I was going to say, keep in mind, Julius Randle is the only all-star player on the Knicks.
Right. So if he's getting outperformed by Julius Randle and they're just doing normal man-to-man, then yes, I think that's an issue. You can't get bounced out of the playoffs like that.
What if both of them, let's say not outperform, but let's say KD still comes out like number one, but Julius Randle is a close second to him, but they still losing their series?
Like the Nets losing the series?
Yeah.
I think it really depends on what the rest of his team does. So if let's say Julius Randle went and put up 30 and KD went and put up like 36, and I go and look at the game log and I see that people like Joe Harris are like 2 of 8 and has like 7 points, and LaMarcus Aldridge has like 6 points, and Blake Griffin's got like 10, then I think that has to go on his team a bit too. If he's showing out, then he deserves credit. But
to an extent, but then can we take him down the notch, saying maybe Kevin Durant just showing that he doesn't elevate guys around him?
I think we need to be able to see that from LeBron's end too to make that evaluation. So
because I recall that when it was the other way around for LeBron when they played against the Suns, Devin Booker, like in that elimination game, he scored like I think 40 points. LeBron had 25. We saw LeBron was clearly playing like more of a facilitating role, and we saw he was putting guys in good situations, but they weren't scoring the ball. And we criticized LeBron for not being aggressive enough scoring wise. So I'm saying here with Kevin Durant, it's the opposite. He got his points, but in this scenario, let's say he wasn't putting his teammates in good situations either.
Here's the way I look at it. LeBron having A great performance from LeBron to me is 25 points and like 10 assists. Not even the rebounds. Like he's going to distribute. He's usually going to get this to 7 to 10 assists, right?
That's not great to me. That's a minimum to me.
But that's what I consider to be a good game from him. But while I expect 25 points and 10 rebounds from LeBron or 10 assists, I expect Kevin Durant to have 36 points and 2 or 3 assists. So while I might expect LeBron to have this great all-around game, I expect KD to make up for that in scoring strictly and not contributing as much to maybe the game facilitating. So he would at least need to have 10 more points for me to consider them both to have a somewhat even game. He needs to outscore at least and be a sole scorer. But it really depends on their performances. So I think LeBron needs to score less points because he contributes way more around the court for him to have a great game, whereas KD doesn't contribute as much around the rest of his team where he needs to score solely.
So we're gonna give KD a pass for not being as impactful all around.
Well, I'm saying are we assuming that if LeBron and KD both lose, is that what we're stacking it up against? If they both lose but they both show out, is that what we're stacking?
Yeah.
So I would evenly criticize KD and LeBron if LeBron had 25 points and 10 assists and KD had 35 points and 3 or 4 assists.
All right, that's fair.
Just to give a reasonable number, because I don't expect LeBron to go out and put up 40. And I know I told you last year that LeBron needed to go and put up 40 in the playoff game for them to win, and I do believe that at times, not because I don't think he's capable of that. I think that's just sometimes what they need to win is LeBron to be the alpha on the court.
Yeah,
but
that is what they need in that situation because Anthony Davis wasn't there. Yeah.
But on a normal basis, I don't want that from him. I want him to be able to distribute and play game facilitator. I don't want him to be forced to put 46 minutes in and him having the ball every 3 seconds. That shouldn't need to happen with the surroundings around him. The ball should be in AD's hands and Russell Westbrook's hands too. But if LeBron is forced to do it, then it is what it is. But that's not what needs to happen. He needs to facilitate, and he needs to be able to facilitate. And I don't think those games are on him necessarily. I think that's on his teammates.
Okay.
And Kevin Durant, unfortunately, his game style is a bit different, but he's got to outscore everyone for him to get his performance in. Just different game styles.
The one-man show, but I am going to leave this in mind because Warriors fans who love Steph Curry, this is one thing that they've always harbored inside of them, why some of them to this day make arguments for Steph over KD. Because back when on the Warriors, they could see that Steph had a bigger impact on the team overall, more so than Kevin Durant did.
I want to also talk about a player on the Warriors that's somewhat significant.
We don't need to mention them.
Why?
Because right now we're talking about the top dogs in the league.
And he's top dog.
We're talking about the top creme de la creme dogs in the league.
I'm going to read you 3 different stats on the Warriors. There's 3 different players on the Warriors.
No. Before you start, you better make it clear to the audience that we're changing the topic of this conversation right now. If you want to keep holding your basketball card.
All right, we're changing the topic, but that's because the show's about to end, and I want to get this topic in.
Okay.
And real quick, just for a conclusion of our argument here, from before, I think that there's 2 to 3 players in the NBA who could become the number 1 player at the end of the year. I think that that's something that could change constantly, and I think that depending on how each player performs in the playoffs especially could affect that rating. And those 3 guys, I don't think Steph's in there yet. Just to be honest with you, I think it's Giannis, LeBron, and KD. I think all can kind of define themselves for who could be number 1 this year. Like if Giannis goes and repeats and he's dominant, that can give you a legitimate argument. I'm not saying definitive, but a legitimate argument. And the same with KD and LeBron, especially if LeBron does it at his age. But moving forward, I'm going to read three stat sheets from the Warriors. These are Warriors players, all right? right, player one. Player one is averaging 18.1 points per game, 3.4 assists, and 1.1 steals, and 2.4 turnovers. Player two is averaging 28.6 points per game, 5.8. I don't know if I read rebounds. 5.8 rebounds and 6.8 assists, as well as 3.3 turnovers a game. And then player three is averaging 19 points per game, 4.6 rebounds a game, 1.6 assists, and 1.8 turnovers a game. Which one is the best and which one's the worst? Statistically.
Number 2 is the best.
Right, that's Steph Curry. That's Steph Curry.
Number 1 is second.
Number one, second, that would be Jordan Poole.
And then number 3 is 3.
Number three is Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
Andrew Wiggins is averaging 19 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 1.6 assists, and 1.8 turnovers. Out of those three, he has the lowest turnovers per game while also averaging the second highest in points.
I also feel like he also handles the ball less than the other two.
He's also averaging the same amount of time as Jordan Poole on the court. So
And Jordan Poole is a guard. I believe he handles the ball more than Wiggins. Therefore, I'd hope Wiggins averages less turnovers.
I'm simply saying that he is contributing immensely to the team. There is a reason that they're 18-2, and I know it is mainly Steph Curry, but Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, I'm grouping Jordan Poole in this argument too, are massive contributors to this team and their success. And Andrew Wiggins is definitely a part of that.
He could be averaging more rebounds for, a 6'8" athlete.
He could be averaging
Right.
more rebounds, you're right, but he's also a small forward. So how much is he forced to crash the boards?
He should, I think, him with his athleticism at 6'8", he should be able to average 7 rebounds.
Well, so let me go pull up this player because I'm going to compare him to a player I think that is very similar in build and position, and we're going to see how many rebounds he got. So what did he have? 4.8 is what we're looking at. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see what this player has. Do you have any idea of which player I'm going to pull up?
Are they the same age group?
Kind of. Maybe a
Jason
year or two
Tatum?
older. No.
Is it Jason Tatum? Oh, Jaylen Brown?
No, Wiggins is a couple years older than Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
This man has a very annoying affiliation with Kendrick Perkins. It's also the reason for my hate for Kendrick Perkins.
Oh, Chris Middleton.
Yeah, we're going to look at Chris Middleton and see what he's done because he's similar size and a near similar age.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Middleton averages 5.2 rebounds a game. So
He was injured for most of the start of the season.
yeah, but this is when he's playing. So 5.2.
He needs to get his legs back under him. And
Okay.
He's nowhere near as athletic as Wiggins.
So, all right, let's go to last year. His full season, he played the full year.
Yeah.
Full year, 6 rebounds a game.
How much did Wiggins average?
Last year?
Yeah.
I don't think he had that great of a year last year, but let me look.
It could have fooled me from what I heard from you.
I'm just telling you, any team that needs shooters, you need to bring Carmelo. He'll train your entire team. I mean, he made LeBron such a good shooter.
Have you found the stats or what?
I have. So, in 2020 to 2021,
Mm-hmm.
5 rebounds a game.
Yeah,
So,
Middleton is more.
One less.
Yeah, but the difference is Wiggins is a freak athlete. Middleton isn't.
One's an all-star and one's not. And we're calling this guy garbage. He's contributing.
Jordan Poole made him better.
Oh my lord.
True or false? We knew that Steph always stretched the floor. Jordan Poole's 3-point shooting along with Steph, since Klay's not there, Did that not help stretch the floor further for the Warriors and create more um open lanes getting to the rim for players like Wiggins to thrive?
It helps, but
Yeah,
I'm
thank
saying
you.
that when you're put into a good scenario, you're allowed to be good at basketball and thrive in the system you're in. It doesn't just, write everything off. It doesn't make you garbage at basketball if you're successful.
Fine. All right. Yeah. I just wanted to let you know how it feels. But yeah, I was just trying to string this along. Like I acknowledge Wiggins has impressed me this year. I'll say I would always say straight up garbage. I'll give him decent.
Okay. I think he just deserves more credit than guys like Anthony Bennett who are just straight up busts. He's at least recovering
Yeah.
part of his career. Um,
Yeah. Thank you to Jordan Poole and Steph Curry. I'm holding that point. There's this like you just admitted stretching the floor like that and made his game easier.
do you have anything
Because
else to add before the end of this podcast?
nope.
Do you have any last words for the people watching before we get on out of here?
You guys better stay tuned because this is gonna be a fun season.
I hope you all have a great week with family, friends, love, sports, all of the good stuff. And I hope that, my podcasting partner finds some sense and sits and reflects on the things that he said tonight. Other than that, I hope you have a great night, and we will see
Well,
you next
well,
week.
well. Now I gotta say, I hope my partner grows another layer of skin so that I can call him a certain word that's not profane, but that he can take it when he deserves it, so that he can stop articulating this blasphemy on the air.
Yeah, you're getting close to being called Kendrick Perkins over there.
Hey, if you call me
No,
Kendrick Perkins, I'm not gonna stop calling myself Velocity. By all means, call me KP. But
you're
just
gonna say,
keep in mind, I never called the Giannis
listen,
a Robin.
I'm not a I'm sorry, not ESPN. I am not a sports analyst who makes 80 million to say the dumbest stuff in the world. So you cannot use that comparison.
So the only reason I can't use that comparison because you're not being paid.
To intentionally say crap points. I
So
at
so
least
you
back up my points. That guy gets a paycheck for saying the stupidest stuff in the world.
no. Oh, he backs up his points. This thing we just think his arguments are ridiculous. But can I say it's kind of scary though how you and him would actually agree on a lot of things.
Like what? We can't even argue about this. We can't. We don't have time.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
We don't have time, but I'm
I gotta
living.
say,
Just know I'm living.
I got tape I could pull.
I got a smile on my face, but I'm living. And we're going to wrap up this podcast.
Do it to yourself, my friend.
Have a great night. We will see you all next week. I hope, if I'm here, after the way things have gone today. Not in a scary way, just whether I want to hop back on this podcast again. Have a good night, and we'll see you all later.
To me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you.